What's your go-to spirit? People often identify as a gin drinker or a whiskey drinker, but it's more unusual for people to answer this question with brandy. It's often seen as a bit stuffy, something that kind of old men in smoking jackets drink while they're smoking their cigars, but it's actually a really versatile cocktail ingredient. Aged brandies have all of the depth and complexity of other dark spirits like whiskey or aged rums, but being made from fruit rather than grain, it does mean that they have a real juiciness to it that plays well with other fruit flavors from kind of liqueurs or citrus. So let's dust off that bottle at the back of your cupboard and get mixing. Brandy gets its name from the Dutch word brandewijn. Sorry to any Dutch speakers out there, I've definitely completely butchered that. I really did try, but I can't roll my R's that hard. But it literally means burnt wine, and that's because brandy is made from fermented fruit, i.e. wine, which is then distilled into a spirit. There are huge regional variations in brandy. Brandy made from grapes is definitely the most common, but most fruit-producing regions will have their own version. Basically just uses up any kind of excess or waste fruit. So for example, Calvados in France is known for their apple brandy, and then actually like the southern states in the US used to make a lot of peach brandy. It's a little bit less common now, but that should definitely be brought back. But that's just because that's what they grow there. Because brandy is made all over the world, there aren't very strict rules governing it as a general category. So for instance, a lot of brandy is aged, but not all of it is. So for example, Pisco and Grappa, they're also regional variations of brandy. Of course, certain places known for their brandy, places like Cognac and Armagnac, they'll have really specific rules around what can have their names on the bottle, and that ensures a certain standard of quality for any brandies being made there. You'll often see certain little letters on the bottles, and that denotes how long that spirit has been aged for. So VS on a bottle stands for very special, which means that the brandy has been aged for at least 2 years. VSOP stands for very superior old pale, not very special old product, which for some reason was what I thought for years. And that means at least 4 years of aging. And then XO means extra old. I mean, I know it should really be EO, but I'm not making the rules here. And those brandies are at least 6 years old. Of course, older and more complex brandies are delicious just for sipping, and they make really incredible booze-forward cocktails. Like you can just stick that in an old-fashioned. But I actually lean towards younger brandies for a lot of cocktails to make the most of that fruit flavor. Most of the ones I'll be using today are going to be VSOPs, so sort of in that nice middle ground. There's a really rich history of brandies being used in cocktails, and of course I could do a whole video focused on one sort of subcategory like Pisco, so definitely let me know in the comments if you want some more brandy-based content. But for now, let's make some drinks. One of the fun things about brandy is it is happy to be a team player in cocktails, so it does often feature in split-based drinks or drinks with multiple spirits in there. It adds a bit of roundness and weight without kind of overpowering everything else, which is why I'm a sucker for a split-based Sazerac, as we have discussed previously here. In this provocatively named drink, which is thought to have originated in Harry's New York bar in Paris, it teams up with a white or lightly aged rum for a really fruity and fun take on a sour or daisy style of cocktail. A lot of recipes, including the purported original, do go for equal parts rum, brandy and curacao triple sec with then like a half measure of lemon juice, but I like to let the spirits shine through a little bit more and keep it a little bit zingier with a higher proportion of lemon juice. As I mentioned, a lot of wine producing regions will make their own brandies, so I'm actually using a nice little Aussie one here, which is from South Australia, St. Agnes. It's really quite bold and juicy. It's a VSOP, so it does have a little bit of age to it, so it asserts itself nicely here. And then I'm just going with Havana 3-year-old, so it has a little bit of age, but yeah, a lot of really nice tropical fruit characters, and again, nothing too full on. I'd rather go for a fruitier rum here rather than anything kind of too grassy or more herbal. So we're gonna go in with 25 mils of each of our spirits here. and then 20 mils or 2/3 of an ounce of an orange liqueur, so curacao or triple sec, just something really nice and fresh and zingy. I'm using Marionette. And 20 mils of freshly squeezed lemon juice. This is definitely one that might take a little bit of adjustment depending on really what kind of orange liqueur you use, and you know how sour your lemon is. Might need just a tiny little dash of sugar, but we'll shake it up, give it a quick taste and see how that goes at the end of it there. And for your garnish, you're just going to do a little lemon twist. So I've just done this with a veggie peeler, and then we'll do a little spray over the top and trim it down when it's good to go. So that is a tiny little bit tart, so I'm just going to go literally probably not even 5 mils, just a little dash of sugar syrup. Give it another shake. Double strain. Little spritz over the top. Just pop that on the side of your glass there, and we have it between the sheets. It's really lovely, really citrusy and lemony. If you like a daiquiri, then this is going to be a really fun one to try. Something a bit different there. Obviously a sidecar as well. It's basically a variation on that. The rum adds that little bit more of a tropical fruit kind of vibe, and then you've got the brandy in there with a little bit of kind of darker, a little bit of raisiness, just giving it a bit of oomph kind of over a lot of those other more crisp kind of gin and citrus drinks that you quite often see. So just something with a little bit of interest and a little bit different to try between the sheets. I actually have a bit of a grudge with this cocktail because when I was a nervous baby bartender and I was by myself in the bar for sort of the first time, some fellow hospital folks came in and they ordered a round of classics. So I'd been studying and I knew most of them, but one of them asked for a Harvard, and that wasn't something that I'd ever heard of before. So I had to do some frantic Googling to look like I knew what I was doing. But it's basically a brandy Manhattan. So a very old cocktail back from when academic institutions would have rather more refined cocktails than the kind of diesel type concoctions that I used to drink in my student union. And you can Google the diesel, it is actually a drink and it's disgusting. The 1895 recipe calls for a splash of soda water in there, and it really does work to just lighten everything up and make it a bit more approachable, even if it seems a bit unconventional for a stir down. I also like to use cognac because it's generally very soft and smooth, so makes the Harvard a good gateway to this style of sort of stirred down and more stiff drinks, and it actually makes it work quite well as an aperitif. So we're gonna go in with 45 mils of our cognac. Again, I'm using the VSOP, but honestly you could use VS in kind of any of these cocktails as well. That was just, these are what I had to hand today. Then 20 mils of sweet vermouth. I've got the little 1757 Cinzano, so a little bit richer than your regular Cinzano. You could definitely use kind of any of your usual Zantica formula or something with, yeah, a little bit of a vanilla note works quite well. Then a couple of dashes of our trusty Angostura bitters. Then we're just gonna fill up our mixing glass with ice and give it a stir. So this one obviously is gonna get that little splash of soda water in there, so you don't wanna go overboard with your dilution. You're really just kind of trying to chill it down and get it to the point that it'll just sit nicely in the glass. Sort of just when you can start to feel a little bit of chill on the outside there. And for this one, it's generally sort of a martini glass or a coupe glass, but I'm gonna go kind of a bit of the more old school brandy balloon because I had one and it seemed fun given the subject. You can pretend we're professors with the little leather arm patches on, you know. Then just about 30 mils or kind of a scoosh of soda water, maybe even a little bit less. And then this one just gets a little orange twist, so pop that over the top and then trim it down. And there we have our Harvard. Now, being perfectly honest, I haven't had one of these in quite a while, so I'm interested to see if it matches up to what I remember. Yeah, it's really interesting because it's got that real Christmas cake vibe, especially with the orange over the top there. You're expecting something really quite rich and intense, but then just that little like spritz of bubbles kind of leads you into something that's actually a bit softer and way more approachable, I think, than most kind of rye-based Manhattans and things like that. Yeah, delicious. delicious. I'm glad that one worked out. Of course, a lot of brandy cocktails play with the fruitiness of the spirit, and so, you know, do more similar to the Between the Sheets we just made with different kind of syrups, liqueurs, a lot of stone fruits get used. But I like this one because the chartreuse adds a really awesome contrasting herbal edge that makes it really interesting. I'm gonna stick with the French theme here and use cognac again, but again, any good quality aged brandy will work. So we're gonna go 45 mils or 1.5 ounces of your brandy. Then 15 mils of the green nectar, chartreuse. 20 mils of lemon juice. About 10 mils or 1/3 of an ounce of sugar syrup. You're obviously welcome to adjust that according to your own taste. And then a couple of good dashes of Angostura. You'll notice a lot of, a couple of these cocktails do have the Angostura in there, and it definitely just those kind of woody spice notes, and then the fruity, grapey, raisiny vibe of the brandy is a good combination for sure. Then we're just gonna give that a shake. It's interesting, my citrus is all tasting a little bit sharp today. It might just be the time of year here, so I'm just gonna do another little couple of mils extra of sugar syrup. Otherwise I'm gonna have to take my heartburn tablets. But that's why it's good to always have a little taste, because, you know, citrus is fruit, it's a kind of living thing. It can definitely vary, and so it's not always gonna be exactly according to the recipe. Double strain that into a coupe or martini glass. And there we have our Champs-Élysées cocktail. It's yum, it's interesting. It makes, you know, because we've just used the exact same brandy in another cocktail, and in that one it actually, you know, tasted quite soft and mellow, and I guess the vermouth just kind of smoothed it all out in that little spritz of soda water. In here with the chartreuse, which is obviously like such a strong flavor, it's like the brandy's kind of risen to meet that, and so it's really quite like a juicy and kind of intense flavor. And yeah, heaps of herbaceousness. And the Angostura is definitely doing a really good job there of just kind of pinning that all together with a nice little sort of through line of woody spice. Again, not honestly one that I'd, you know, thought about for a while, or potentially even ever had before I was writing this script, but it's definitely one that's going on the rotation now. So there we have 3 fun and interesting brandy cocktails. But as I said, there are so many more to explore, so please definitely let me know if you have a favorite. And let's bring brandy back, baby. Brandy, so now you know.